have a dam, okay. So dam, how the seepage will take place, how the failure will take place, how the piping will, that means failure plane would be formed and so on. Okay, below the dam, we will be having, we will connect all the flow nets, how we can solve this dam problem, okay, earthen dam generally. So what we'll do is, before going to the exact things, through video we'll go start first, and then we'll discuss in next class about this one, okay. Today's class what we'll do is, this, see, very beautiful video, okay. So so quicksand condition, we'll see what is quicksand condition. I think it is with video only, it would be very good, okay, for explanation. Is it visible?
A soil mass is the huge collection of
Visible?
small
Audible?
particles
Yes,
we
sir.
call soil grains.
Yeah.
These soil grains, when depositing in a soil mass, encloses empty space between them, which we call voids. The free water available under the ground moves inside the water under the influence of gravity, and it flows through these voids. This phenomena of flow of water, movement of water through the soil, is called seepage. We know that water moves from high energy state to low energy state. And in case of water, these energy states are represented as hydraulic heads. The hydraulic head is the amount of mechanical energy or liquid pressure available at any point in the water above datum. For the flow of water to take place in the soil, there should be a difference of hydraulic head between 2 points in space, and water flows from high hydraulic head to low hydraulic head. Hence, we can say seepage takes place when there is a difference of hydraulic head. Water does not flow if 2 points in the water have same energy or have inadequate head difference.
A lot of times I used to get very nervous speaking to overseas clients because
Water may flow even against gravity if point A is at higher hydraulic head than that of point B. As the water flows through the soil, the surface of the soil particles offers a resistance to the flow. In turn, water also pushes the soil particles and applies a drag to them in the direction of its motion. This drag increases the interparticle forces. This force applied by the water on the soil particles is called seepage force. And because of it, pressure developed in the soil is termed as seepage pressure. When the water flows in the soil in the horizontal direction, it exerts seepage force on the soil particles in the horizontal direction. If this exerted force is strong, it has the capability to displace the soil particles in its way, and particles may get carried away by the flowing water. This phenomenon leads to the very serious problem in the soil engineering, development of channels in the soil. And this phenomenon is called piping. But here in this video, we will discuss only the flow of water in the vertical direction. When water flows in the vertical direction, it has direct impact on effective stress acting on the soil particles. And what is effective stress? Soil particles in a soil mass are burdened by the weight of everything above them, which includes weight of all the soil particles above them, weight of water, and weight of any structure if present above. And because of this weight, these particles experience stress, which we call total stress. This total stress is shared by two components in the soil mass. Part of the stress is shared by the water present in the voids of the soil structure, and that is called pore water pressure. And the other part of the stress is shared by the soil grains by their grain to grain force transfer at their point of contact, and that is called the effective stress. It is the part of the total stress that is acting on the soil particles. So, total stress is equal to the sum of effective stress and pore water pressure. And the expression for effective stress is written as total stress minus pore water pressure. Stress at any plane under the soil can be given as the force on that plane divided by the area of that plane. Force on that plane is the weight of soil above the plane, and that is the unit weight of soil multiplied by its volume. Volume is area multiplied by height of the soil mass. This can be simplified to this. So, we can directly write the stress under any material as the unit weight of material multiplied by the height of the material above that point. Pore water pressure at any depth in the soil can be measured by inserting a standpipe at that point and observing the height of the rise of water in the column. Pore water pressure will be the unit weight of water multiplied by the height of the water.
Good English. For millions of mothers, me included, it's the first natural advantage we'd like for our children to have.
Water column. We have already discussed all these in a previous video. To analyze the effect of seepage on effective stress, we take a soil sample of say length capital L and cross-sectional area capital A. The sample is placed in a tank type container that has a valve at its top and bottom. First, we keep the bottom valve closed and completely fill the container with the water so as to submerge the soil. As the bottom valve is closed, no water flows through the soil, hence no seepage occurs. When water does not flow and remains stagnant in the soil, the condition is known as hydrostatic condition. We insert the standpipes at different depths in the soil and notice that water has risen in all the pipes up to the same elevation. But the height of the rise is different for different pipes. And we know the height of the water column represents the pore water pressure in the soil at that depth. So, pore water pressure is different at different depths. It is the total head, which is the sum of pressure head plus elevation head, that is equal for all depths in the soil in hydrostatic condition, not the pore water pressure. If we consider the bottom of the soil sample as our datum and measure the elevations of the point of interest, we can see the sum of elevation head plus pore water pressure is same at all depths. That is, total head is same. And when total head is same everywhere, water does not flow in any direction. The total stress, pore water pressure and effective stress at different depths can be calculated for this no flow condition. Let's say height of the water above the soil sample is of height h1. Total stress at the surface of the soil will be because of this water, gamma W h1. Pore water pressure will be gamma W and height of this water column, h1. So, effective stress is 0. Similarly, at the bottom of the soil sample, total stress because of water, gamma WH1, and because of saturated soil, gamma sat multiplied by capital L, length of the soil sample. Pore water pressure because of this whole water above, gamma W multiplied by the height of the water column, which is length of the soil sample L plus height of the water above, H1. Hence, effective stress can be calculated as this. And this quantity is submerged unit weight of soil. These are the effective stresses at top and bottom of the soil when no seepage occurs in the soil. Now open the valve at the bottom and let the water flow through the soil. The valve at the top is attached with a water source so as to maintain a constant level of water in the soil tank. This condition, when water is not stagnant and is flowing in the soil, is known as hydrodynamic condition. we observe the standpipes and notice that the water level in the tubes has been altered. It is not the same in all tubes as it was earlier in case of hydrostatic condition. It is now different in different tubes. The total head, that is pressure plus elevation head, at the top of the soil is higher and lower at the bottom of the soil. This difference of head at different depths in the soil clearly indicates that there is a flow of water in the soil. As we know, water flows from high head to low head. Let's say the head difference between the entry head and exit head of water is small h. Also remove this middle standpipe. We don't need it right now for analysis. Total stress distribution at different depths in the soil does not change by the flow of water, as there is no change in the overburden pressure. Total stress at the surface of the soil is stress because of water, gamma W H1. Pore water pressure will be gamma W and height of this water column H1. So again, effective stress is 0. Total stress at the bottom of the soil is stress because of water, gamma WH1, plus stress because of saturated soil, gamma sat L. Pore water pressure at this plane is gamma W multiplied by the height of the water column in the standpipe, which is this total height H1 plus L minus head loss, small h. Hence, we can write effective stress as this. And this quantity is submerged unit weight of soil. We know the change in the hydraulic head per unit distance over which this change occurs is called hydraulic gradient. In our case, the head loss over the length of the specimen L is small h. So, flow is taking place in downward direction under a hydraulic gradient, say I equal to h by L. If we are to represent it in hydraulic gradient, we can simply write it IL from this equation. We wrote it this way because to calculate the effective stress at any depth in the soil, we don't need to insert an additional standpipe at that depth and measure its head loss, as it has been removed from the equation. Hydraulic gradient throughout the soil is constant. So, effective stress at the depth Z can be given as this. If we compare this effective stress at the bottom of the sample with the effective stress in the hydrostatic condition at the same level, we can see the effective stress has increased by IL gamma W. This increased stress or pressure is called seepage pressure. It clearly indicates that downward seepage in the soil increases the effective stress or interparticle forces. This additional stress is due to the seepage pressure which acts in the direction of flow of water. When water flows down the soil mass, water tends to push soil particles downwards. Consequently, soil particles push each other, causing to increase the interparticle forces, and that is increase in effective stress. So, the increase in effective stress at any point below the surface at a depth Z when water is flowing with a constant hydraulic gradient I can be written as this. Now let's reverse the situation and attach the water source to the bottom wall. Now the flow of water in the sample is in upward direction and upward seepage is taking place. We notice piezometric levels in the standpipes have changed and total head at the bottom of the soil has now become greater than the head at the top. Let's say the head difference between the two ends of the soil are small h. So, hydraulic gradient that is responsible for moving the water in the upward direction is I equal to h by L. Let's analyze the stresses again. Effective stress at the top surface is again 0. Now, at the bottom surface, total stress is because of this water gamma WH1 plus because of saturated soil gamma set L. Notice that total stress is unchanged. Pore water pressure is gamma W multiplied by the height of the water column in the standpipe, which is this total height H1 plus L plus head loss small h. Hence, effective stress can be written as this. And this is submerged unit weight of soil. Here we can write this head loss as IL. Now, comparison with the previous condition shows that the upward seepage in the soil reduces the effective stress at the bottom of the soil by IL gamma W. When water flows upwards in the soil, it tends to push the soil particles in upward direction. Consequently, soil particles are lifted against gravity that causes to decrease the interparticle forces, and that we say decrease in effective stress. Now, if we notice that if head difference H keeps on increasing, it may reach a condition when this quantity in the equation becomes equal to this one, as it is nothing but head loss. At that point, effective stress in the soil will become equal to 0. We can solve it for hydraulic gradient at which effective stress in the soil reaches to 0. This hydraulic gradient is called critical hydraulic gradient and is written as ICR. When water flows in the soil in upward direction at the critical hydraulic gradient, the seepage force or drag exerted by the water on the soil particles, which pushes them up, completely balances the weight of these particles, and they seem to be suspended in the water. Soil in such state does not behave like a soil anymore, but behaves like a very viscous liquid. Soil loses all its shear strength and is no longer able to support any load. This phenomena is called quicksand. Note that quicksand is not a type of sand. It is a hydraulic condition. If we remember, we learned a relationship of soil parameters. This relationship relates unit weight of water with the properties of the soil, that are soil's unit weight, its void ratio, and specific gravity of its solid particles. We can rewrite it and substitute this as a critical hydraulic gradient. It is an important relationship to be remembered. If we know specific gravity of soil particles in a soil mass and its void ratio, we can calculate the critical hydraulic gradient of that soil. Gradient at which the movement of water in upward direction in the soil is such that the soil becomes quick and loses all its shear strength and is not able to support any load. We have seen in some movies that humans sink into the quicksand and die. But theoretically, it is not possible for a human to sink completely into the quicksand because human mass density is lower than that of quicksand soil. A human may sink only up to about his waist only if he does not panic. But if one panics, he may fall into the sand and won't be able to stand back up, and that he may die because of suffocation. So never panic if you are trapped in a quicksand. Stand still and call for help. In the meantime, also pray that elementary engineering knowledge sources were correct. Quicksand condition.
Now we'll see this piping.
A dam is a barrier that restricts the flow of water and can be used to collect the water. This water may be utilized for many purposes such as irrigation, human consumption, industrial use, and hydropower generation. Many times, these dams or such hydraulic structures are built on pervious foundation, and water flows through the voids present in the soil from high hydraulic head to low hydraulic head. This phenomenon of water, movement of water through the soil, is called seepage. as the water flows through the soil, the water exerts a drag on the soil particles in the direction of its motion. This force applied by the water on the soil particles is called seepage force. And because of it, pressure developed in the soil is termed as seepage pressure. When water flows in the soil in horizontal direction, it exerts seepage force on the particles in the horizontal direction. And when it flows vertically, the force is exerted in vertical direction. If this exerted force is strong, it has the capability to displace the soil particles in its way, and particles may get carried away by the flowing water. This phenomena leads to a very serious problem in the soil engineering, development of channels in the soil. And this phenomena is called piping. When water flows through the pervious foundation of a dam with a very high hydraulic gradient, it may carry soil particles with it, causing to form pipe-shaped channels in its foundation. And the structure may fail because of piping failure. There are two types of piping failures: backward erosion piping failure and heave piping failure. Let's begin with backward erosion piping failure. When water percolates through the soil under any hydraulic structure, it may happen to exit vertically upwards at the downstream. If this water moves with a high hydraulic gradient, the seepage force or drag exerted by it on the soil particles may push them up, and the soil particles at the exit point of the water may be removed by the force of water. This removal of soil particles decreases the length of flow, and that increases the hydraulic gradient even more, causing further removal of the soil. This process of erosion of soil in the backward direction continues towards the upstream, and a pipe-like opening is formed below the dam. Hydraulic structure becomes unstable and may fail. This type of piping is called backward erosion piping. Generally, backward erosion piping failure occurs when the exit gradient becomes greater than the critical hydraulic gradient. The hydraulic gradient near the exit point of the water is called exit gradient. If we draw the flow net for this particular flow condition, we may calculate the exit gradient as the drop of head through the last flow field divided by the length of the flow field. Critical hydraulic gradient is the hydraulic gradient with which, when water flows in the soil in upward direction, the seepage force or drag exerted by water on soil particles, which pushes them up, completely balances the weight of these particles, and they seem to be suspended in the water. Soil in such state does not behave like a soil anymore, but behaves like a viscous liquid. Soil loses all its shear strength and is no longer able to support any load. For the safety of the structure, the exit gradient must be very low from the critical hydraulic gradient. This piping phenomena leads to the whole structure failure, and it is so serious that for safety against piping, a factor of safety of at least 6 is recommended. If the dam that holds the water is an earth dam, that is, it is made up of earth material such as rocks and soil, this backward erosion piping may also occur in the body of the structure. Then the second piping failure is heave piping failure. Heave meaning is to lift or raise something with a great force. This kind of failure may also occur on the downstream side of a hydraulic structure when the water is coming out vertically upwards. It occurs when the upward seepage force acting on the particles over an area exceeds the downward force because of the submerged weight of the soil above that area. This condition destabilizes the soil, and if this uplift force acts opposite to the force of gravity due to the weight of the dam, and if it is high enough, it may destabilize the whole structure. To prevent backward erosion piping or heave piping failure, The upward seepage force exerted by the water on the soil particles should be less than the downward force due to the weight of the soil or structure or any other arrangement. So, factor of safety against the piping in the soil can be written as the weight of everything above, which is downward force divided by the upward seepage force applied by the water. If value of downward force, that is weight of overlying material, is twice the value of the upward force, we receive the factor of safety as 2. This means the structure is twice safe. Downward force is greater than uplift force, so the structure is safe and is twice strong. There are few methods through which we can prevent the piping failure. First is increasing the path of flow. We know the hydraulic gradient is the head loss over the length of flow. We can see in this situation, it is difficult to decrease the head loss, but we have control over the length of the flow over which it is percolating. If we increase the length of the flow, the hydraulic gradient will decrease, and that also causes to decrease the exit gradient. We can increase the length of the flow so that exit gradient becomes well below the critical hydraulic gradient and the structure will be safe. There are few methods through which we can increase this flow path. First, we can increase the base width of the hydraulic structure, so water has to travel more to reach the downstream and length of the flow is increased. Second, we can provide vertical cut-off walls below the structure at upstream end. Thereby, water has to go below this wall to reach the downstream. Third, we can also provide an impervious blanket on the upstream. Second method to prevent the piping failure is reducing seepage. If our hydraulic structure is an earth dam, we can reduce possibility of piping failure through the body of the dam by the reduction of seepage through its body. For that, we provide an impervious core through which water cannot flow. We can also provide the drainage filter near the top of the earth dam. Drainage filter consists of layers of pervious material which permits flow of water but prevent the movement of soil particles. Drainage filter changes the direction of the flow away from the downstream face and avoid piping through the body of the dam. Then, to prevent the piping failure, we may provide a loaded filter. It is provided at the downstream from where the water emerges out. A loaded filter consists of pervious material such as graded sand and gravels. The loaded filter increases the downward force to counter the upward seepage force at the point where water emerges out from the soil. Hence, the loaded filter increases the factor of safety against piping. And the factor of safety is given as weight of soil plus weight of filter divided by the upward seepage force. Filters are so designed that they are more permeable than the soil they protect, and yet their particles are not very big that the fine particles of the soil they protect can move through the voids in the filter. If you like elementary engineering videos, you may support it on Patreon, or you may buy Elementary Engineering's handmade diaries at Professor. Read Piping Failure on Elementary.
Hope you are following, okay?